In a world where we are constantly bombarded with demands and requests for help, it's crucial to remember that not everyone deserves our time and energy. In the journey of life, we all encounter people who take advantage of our kindness, drain us emotionally, and leave us feeling unappreciated. The Stoic philosophy teaches us an important lesson. Knowing when to say no is just as essential as knowing when to help. Today, we will explore 9 types of people who, though they may appear harmless, can have a detrimental effect on our well-being. These are the people who don't respect your boundaries, manipulate your goodwill, and only leave you feeling exhausted. By learning to identify these individuals, we can protect our emotional energy and preserve our peace of mind. Remember, saying no isn't about rejecting others, but about practicing self-defense. It's about setting clear boundaries that honor your time, your values, and your emotional health. As Stoics, we understand that we cannot control others, but we can control our responses. And by doing so, we create a life that is more meaningful, fulfilling, and true to who we are. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to our channel for more Stoic wisdom on navigating life's challenges. By implementing these lessons, we can all lead a more grounded and empowered life. Type of person 1, the ones who live in a false reality. In today's world, it's not hard to encounter people who live in a distorted version of reality. These individuals build their own narratives, often to avoid confronting uncomfortable truths. They may hold on to illusions of grandeur, imagining themselves as more successful or accomplished than they truly are, or they may escape into fantasy to avoid facing personal shortcomings or challenges. They live in a world where reality doesn't fit their idealized version of life. And rather than accepting the truth, they opt to create stories that give them comfort and a sense of control. But as Stoicism teaches, living in this false reality only leads to frustration, confusion, and unhappiness. At some point, the truth will surface and the constructed reality will crumble. The Stoics remind us that facing the truth, no matter how difficult, is the only way to achieve real inner peace and emotional freedom. They advocate for building our lives on solid foundations, grounded in honesty and authenticity. Living in a false reality is like trying to build a house on shifting sand. It might seem stable at first, but when life's challenges arise, the illusion will collapse. To live well, we must align ourselves with reality, no matter how painful or uncomfortable it might be. The Stoic way is to confront life with clarity and honesty, accepting what is, rather than clinging to what we wish were true. Mindfulness, an essential part of Stoic practice, can help us navigate this challenge. Mindfulness allows us to stay present, to observe life without judgment, and to see things as they are, rather than as we want them to be. When we practice mindfulness, we gain the clarity needed to face reality directly, without the filter of self-deception. This clarity empowers us to make better decisions, to respond to life's difficulties with wisdom, and to maintain our emotional equilibrium, even in the face of adversity. In our modern world, many people resist accepting uncomfortable truths. They prefer to escape into illusions, whether through daydreams of success or by avoiding difficult situations altogether. While it can be tempting to offer our help, Stoicism teaches us that the best way to help these individuals is not by enabling their avoidance of reality, but by encouraging them to face the truth. This may be challenging, but it is the only path to genuine growth and development. When we confront these individuals, the Stoic response is not to reject them, but to gently push them toward honesty and self-awareness. By letting them experience the consequences of their avoidance, we are offering them a chance to grow. It may not be easy, but the Stoic approach teaches us that this is how we help others truly evolve and find peace. So when faced with someone who refuses to face the truth, consider stepping back. This doesn't mean abandoning them. It means giving them the space to face their own reality and learn from it. By practicing this, You preserve your emotional energy and allow them the opportunity to grow at their own pace, in their own time. In the end, the Stoics remind us that true peace comes not from avoiding discomfort, but from embracing the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. When we live in alignment with reality, we create the conditions for genuine wisdom, growth, and inner tranquility. Type of person 2. The opportunists. In life, we often encounter people who are more interested in exploiting others for their own gain than in forming genuine relationships. These individuals are known as opportunists, people who will take advantage of your goodwill and generosity without ever offering anything in return. They are masters of manipulation, using charm, flattery, or even emotional tactics to extract what they want from you. While they may appear kind or gracious, their actions often reflect self-interest and a lack of true reciprocity. The challenge with opportunists is that they drain our energy without ever giving back. At first, they may seem like good friends or colleagues, but over time, their true intentions become clearer. They will constantly demand your time, support, and resources, but when the tables are turned, they vanish. Stoicism teaches us an essential lesson here. We must recognize the value of our time, energy, and resources and learn to protect them from being exploited by others. The Stoic approach to dealing with opportunists is not about being hostile or rejecting others out of malice, but about setting healthy boundaries. By saying no when needed, we protect ourselves from being taken advantage of. The Stoics remind us that we have the power to control our responses and to safeguard our inner peace by choosing who we engage with and how much of ourselves we give. Recognizing opportunists is key to maintaining your emotional and mental well-being. These individuals often prey on your sense of kindness and generosity, using your willingness to help as a tool to further their own agendas. But the Stoic way teaches us to discern between genuine relationships and those that are based on manipulation. True friendships and alliances are built on mutual respect, trust, and reciprocity. Opportunists, however, exploit these values for personal gain without ever contributing equally. Setting boundaries is crucial when dealing with opportunists. The Stoics urge us to understand our limits and to establish clear, firm boundaries that protect our integrity. This might mean saying no to requests, even when it feels uncomfortable. But in doing so, we protect our energy and preserve our emotional health. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect, ensuring that our time and resources are not constantly siphoned away by those who only take without giving. This can be particularly challenging when the opportunist in question is someone close to us, whether a family member, a friend, or a colleague. In such cases, it's easy to feel guilty for not being more generous. However, the Stoic perspective teaches us that our responsibility is to ourselves first. By protecting our energy, we not only preserve our well-being, but also ensure that we are capable of helping others who genuinely need our support and who will reciprocate in kind. Learning to say no is a vital skill that is often underappreciated. In a world that constantly demands more from us, saying no is not an act of selfishness, but of self-preservation. It's an act that empowers us to choose where to focus our efforts and how to allocate our resources wisely. By applying the principles of Stoicism, we can recognize when we are being manipulated and learn to protect ourselves from opportunists without losing our sense of compassion and generosity. In summary, dealing with opportunists requires a balance of kindness and discernment. The Stoic approach teaches us to set boundaries, recognize manipulation, and prioritize our own well-being. By doing so, we create a life that is grounded in integrity and authenticity, and we protect ourselves from being taken advantage of by those who seek to exploit our kindness for their own benefit. Type of person 3. The self-centered individuals. In every aspect of life, we encounter people who seem to believe that the world revolves around them. These self-centered individuals view everything through the lens of their own desires and needs, often disregarding the perspectives, feelings, and needs of others. They may constantly seek attention, approval, or validation, and their actions are driven by a deep sense of entitlement. These people often have difficulty understanding or empathizing with others, as their primary focus is always themselves. The challenge with self-centered individuals is that they can be draining to interact with. Their self-absorbed nature is difficult for them to offer meaningful connections or support in return. They might demand your time, attention, and resources, but when the roles are reversed, they are often unwilling or unable to provide the same in return. This creates an imbalance in the relationship, leaving you feeling used and emotionally depleted. From a Stoic perspective, it's crucial to recognize that we cannot change the nature of self-centered individuals. We cannot force them to become more considerate or self-aware if they are not willing to make that change themselves. However, the Stoics offer valuable wisdom on how to deal with such individuals in a way that protects our own emotional well-being. One key lesson from Stoicism is the importance of setting clear boundaries. Self-centered people often test the limits of others, demanding more than what is fair or reasonable. When dealing with them, it's essential to establish boundaries that prioritize your own needs and maintain your inner peace. By saying no when necessary, we are not being unkind or rejecting them out of malice. Rather, we are protecting our own energy and ensuring that we are not drained by their constant demands. Stoicism teaches us to practice detachment and focus on what is within our control. While we cannot control the behavior of self-centered individuals, we can control our own reactions to them. The Stoics encourage us to respond to these situations with patience, understanding, and emotional resilience. When faced with the self-centered behavior of others, we can choose to maintain our composure, rather than getting caught up in frustration or resentment. It's also important to remember that self-centered individuals often act out of insecurity or fear. Their need for constant validation and attention is often a reflection of their internal struggles and lack of self-worth. Stoicism teaches us to approach these individuals with compassion while also maintaining our distance. This means recognizing their behavior without taking it personally and refraining from allowing their demands to disrupt our emotional balance. Additionally, the Stoics remind us that we are responsible for our own happiness and well-being. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and responses, we can free ourselves from the emotional turmoil that comes from dealing with self-centered individuals. We must remember that their actions are not a reflection of our worth, and we should not allow their behavior to define our emotional state. In the modern world, self-centered individuals may be more prevalent than ever, especially in an age of social media and constant self-promotion. However, the Stoic principles of resilience, detachment, and boundary setting offer powerful tools for navigating relationships with these individuals. By applying these principles, we can maintain our peace of mind and focus on building meaningful connections with those who genuinely respect and value us. In conclusion, dealing with self-centered individuals requires a combination of patience, self-awareness, and healthy boundaries. The Stoic approach teaches us to protect our emotional well-being by not allowing others to dominate our lives with their self-centered demands. By practicing detachment, setting boundaries, and focusing on what we can control, we can preserve our inner peace and maintain authentic relationships that contribute to our personal growth and happiness. Type of person 4, the ones who never own up to their mistakes. In life, we all make mistakes. It's a natural part of being human. However, some people refuse to take responsibility for their actions, constantly deflecting blame onto others or external circumstances. These individuals are quick to deny any wrongdoings, often offering excuses or pointing fingers at anyone but themselves. They lack the self-awareness needed to acknowledge their faults and learn from them. This behavior not only undermines their personal growth, but can also negatively impact the people around them. The challenge with such individuals is that they can create a toxic environment of denial, manipulation, and resentment. When someone refuses to take responsibility for their mistakes, it becomes difficult to engage in honest and productive communication. It can leave others feeling frustrated, unsupported, and invalidated. As a result, relationships with such individuals often become strained as trust and respect begin to erode. From a Stoic perspective, the key to dealing with people who refuse to own up to their mistakes is not to internalize their behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own responses. Instead of allowing ourselves to be drawn into cycles of frustration or resentment, we can choose to remain calm and composed. By practicing emotional resilience, we preserve our peace of mind and protect our emotional energy. The Stoics remind us that taking responsibility for our actions is essential for personal growth. When we admit our mistakes and learn from them, we strengthen our character and develop wisdom. Refusing to take responsibility, on the other hand, keeps us trapped in a cycle of self-deception and stagnation. The Stoic principle of self-awareness teaches us that acknowledging our faults is the first step toward improvement. When dealing with someone who constantly deflects blame, it's important to set clear boundaries. You don't have to accept their refusal to take responsibility or enable their behavior. Setting boundaries is not about being hostile or judgmental. It's about protecting your own emotional health and ensuring that your relationships remain respectful and constructive. By refusing to engage in their excuses or blame shifting, you create space for a healthier, more authentic connection. It's also worth considering that individuals who refuse to own up to their mistakes often do so out of fear or insecurity. They may be avoiding the discomfort of admitting their flaws or the potential consequences of their actions. Stoicism teaches us to approach these individuals with understanding and patience, while also maintaining our boundaries. Recognizing that their behavior is a reflection of their own struggles allows us to avoid taking their actions personally and to respond with empathy. However, the Stoic approach doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. We must still hold others accountable for their actions, but we do so with a sense of detachment. We can express our dissatisfaction without being consumed by anger or resentment. By maintaining emotional control, we protect ourselves from the negative effects of their behavior and create the possibility for growth and healing in the relationship. In the modern world, where accountability is often overlooked or dismissed, it's crucial to hold ourselves and others to a higher standard. The Stoic approach teaches us that by taking responsibility for our actions and encouraging others to do the same, we can create a culture of integrity, personal growth, and mutual respect. In conclusion, dealing with individuals who refuse to own up to their mistakes requires patience, emotional resilience, and clear boundaries. The Stoic principles of self-awareness, detachment, and accountability offer powerful tools for navigating these situations. By applying these principles, we can protect our emotional well-being, foster healthier relationships, and continue our journey of personal growth and wisdom. Type of person. 5. The ones who resist change. In life, change is inevitable. It's a constant force that shapes our personal growth, our careers, and the world around us. Yet, there are some individuals who resist change at all costs. They cling to the familiar, even when it no longer serves them, because they fear the uncertainty that comes with stepping into the unknown. These individuals often find comfort in stagnation, believing that any attempt to change is too risky or too challenging. The challenge with these individuals is that their resistance to change can limit their potential for growth and development. They become stuck in old habits, outdated beliefs, and familiar routines, unable or unwilling to adapt to new circumstances. Their refusal to embrace change not only affects their own personal progress, but can also hold back the people and organizations they are a part of. From a Stoic perspective, the key to dealing with individuals who resist change is to focus on what we can control, our own actions and responses. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot force others to change. We cannot make someone embrace a new way of thinking or living if they are not willing to do so themselves. However, we can control how we react to their resistance and how we choose to engage with them. One of the fundamental principles of Stoicism is the idea of accepting what we cannot change. The Stoics remind us that change is a natural part of life, and resisting it only leads to frustration and suffering. By accepting change, we align ourselves with the natural flow of life, and we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities. Resisting change, on the other hand, keeps us stuck in the past and prevents us from moving forward. When dealing with someone who resists change, it's important to approach them with patience and understanding. They may have valid reasons for their resistance: fear, insecurity, or a lack of confidence in their ability to adapt. Stoicism encourages us to respond with empathy, recognizing that their fear is often rooted in their own insecurities. However, it's equally important to set boundaries and not allow their resistance to drag us down or limit our own growth. The Stoic approach is not about trying to change others, but about maintaining our own sense of peace and resilience in the face of their resistance. We must learn to accept that not everyone will be ready to change at the same pace, and that's okay. Our responsibility is to continue growing and evolving, regardless of whether others are on the same path. Furthermore, we can use their resistance as an opportunity for self-reflection. Rather than becoming frustrated with their unwillingness to change, we can ask ourselves whether there are areas in our own lives where we are resisting change. Are we holding on to outdated beliefs or habits that no longer serve us? The Stoic practice of self-examination encourages us to look inward and identify where we, too, may be resisting the natural flow of change in our own lives. In the modern world, change is happening faster than ever, and the ability to adapt is crucial for success. Whether in our personal lives, our careers, or our relationships, the ability to embrace change is key to thriving in an ever-changing world. The Stoic approach teaches us that by accepting change, setting boundaries, and continuing to grow regardless of others' resistance, we can live a life that is true to our values, resilient in the face of adversity, and open to new possibilities. In conclusion, dealing with individuals who resist change requires patience, empathy, and a focus on what we can control, our own growth and actions. By applying the principles of Stoicism, we can maintain our peace, adapt to life's challenges, and continue on our journey of self-improvement, regardless of whether those around us are ready to change. Type of person 6. The lazy and unmotivated. In every corner of life, we come across people who are content to sit back and let life pass them by. These individuals lack the motivation to take responsibility for their own success and well-being. They may have dreams and ambitions, but they lack the drive to take action toward achieving them. Instead of pushing themselves to improve, they often wait for others to step in and solve their problems, making excuses along the way. The real challenge with such individuals is that their laziness can become a drain on those around them, who end up shouldering the burden of their lack of effort. The problem with dealing with lazy and unmotivated people is that they often have a way of making you feel like their lack of action is somehow your responsibility. They might ask for help, but never follow through. Or they may consistently fall short of expectations without making any attempt to improve. Over time, this creates an environment of frustration and resentment, as those who are motivated find themselves doing the work for others who simply don't care enough to put in the effort. From a Stoic perspective, the key to dealing with lazy and unmotivated individuals is recognizing that we cannot make someone else take action or be motivated. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we respond to it. The Stoic response is not to give in to frustration or resentment, but to focus on our own growth and actions. We must recognize that our responsibility is to ourselves and our own progress, not to someone else's lack of initiative. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of personal responsibility. We are responsible for our own actions, and it's through taking responsibility for ourselves that we grow and develop. When dealing with someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own progress, we must remind ourselves that their lack of motivation is not an excuse for us to carry their weight. We are not obligated to do their work or to solve their problems for them. Instead, the Stoic approach teaches us to lead by example. By living a life of purpose, discipline, and action, we can inspire others to take responsibility for themselves. We must maintain our focus on our own goals and values, while offering encouragement and guidance where appropriate, but not enabling their laziness. It's important to set boundaries and not allow their lack of effort to pull us off course or to compromise our own values. Furthermore, the Stoic principle of acceptance teaches us that while we cannot change others, we can accept them as they are, without allowing their behavior to affect our inner peace. By accepting the reality of their laziness, we can avoid the trap of frustration and instead choose to remain calm and focused on our own actions. We recognize that while we may want to help, we cannot force anyone to change or take responsibility for themselves if they are not ready to do so. In the modern world, where instant gratification and distractions are more prevalent than ever, it's easy for some to fall into the trap of laziness and procrastination. However, the Stoic approach offers a powerful antidote. By focusing on what is within our control, our own actions, our own effort, we can continue to make progress in our lives, regardless of those who choose to remain stagnant. In conclusion, dealing with lazy and unmotivated individuals requires a balance of patience, understanding, and healthy boundaries. The Stoic principles of personal responsibility, self-discipline, and leading by example provide us with the tools to maintain our focus on our own goals, while also offering guidance to those who may need it. By applying these principles, we can preserve our emotional energy, avoid being dragged down by others, and continue to grow and achieve in our own lives, regardless of the laziness we encounter in others. Type of person 7. The negative and constantly complaining. In every aspect of life, we encounter individuals who seem to view the world through a lens of negativity. No matter how much positivity or encouragement you offer them, they will always find something to complain about. These individuals rarely express gratitude or appreciation, and instead focus on what's wrong, what's unfair, or what could have been better. Their constant complaints can create an atmosphere of pessimism that brings down not only their own spirits, but also those around them. The challenge with constantly negative individuals is that their mindset can easily seep into your own thoughts. If you're not careful, they can drain your energy and enthusiasm, making you feel as if the world is just one big problem to solve. They may not even realize the impact their negativity has on others. But for those who are more optimistic or solution-oriented, it can be exhausting. From a Stoic perspective, it is crucial to recognize when we are allowing negativity to influence our emotional state and to take active steps to protect our peace of mind. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the actions or thoughts of others, we can control our responses. We don't have to let the negativity of others take root in our own minds. The Stoics emphasize the power of our internal state and remind us that our peace of mind is not dependent on external circumstances, but on our own perceptions and judgments. By choosing to not engage in the negativity or complaints of others, we can maintain our inner tranquility and avoid being dragged down by their toxic mindset. One of the core Stoic principles is the idea of focusing on what is within our control. We cannot control the thoughts and actions of negative individuals, but we can control how much we allow their negativity to affect us. It's essential to acknowledge their complaints without allowing them to consume our energy or derail our own sense of peace. When we engage with negativity, we are essentially giving up our own emotional sovereignty. The Stoics encourage us to resist this temptation and to focus instead on our own goals, values, and actions. It's important to set boundaries when dealing with negative individuals. While we can show empathy and listen to their concerns, we must recognize when their complaints are no longer productive or constructive. If the negativity is persistent and unyielding, it's okay to distance ourselves and preserve our mental and emotional health. Setting boundaries does not mean we are being unkind. It simply means we are protecting ourselves from being weighed down by negativity. Another key Stoic practice is the idea of viewing things as they are, rather than how we wish they would be. The Stoics remind us that life is filled with challenges, setbacks, and imperfections. However, it is our reaction to these events that determines our emotional state, not the events themselves. When dealing with someone who constantly complains, we can choose to view their perspective with understanding, recognizing that they may be struggling with their own internal challenges. This allows us to respond with compassion rather than frustration or resentment, while still maintaining our peace. In the modern world where social media and constant news cycles often highlight negativity and problems, it can be easy to fall into a similar mindset of complaining and dissatisfaction. However, the Stoic approach provides a powerful antidote to this constant psychonegativity. By focusing on what we can control, our own thoughts, actions, and responses, we can break free from the grip of negativity and cultivate a mindset of gratitude, resilience, and purpose. In conclusion, dealing with negative and constantly complaining individuals requires patience, emotional resilience, and the practice of setting clear boundaries. The Stoic principles of focusing on what is within our control, maintaining our inner peace, and responding to negativity with empathy and understanding offer powerful tools for navigating these situations. By applying these principles, we can protect our emotional energy, preserve our peace of mind, and continue to grow and thrive, regardless of the negativity we encounter in others. Type of person 8. The entitled and privileged. In life, we often meet individuals who believe that they deserve special treatment simply by virtue of their status, position, or circumstances. These are the people who act as though the world owes them something, expecting preferential treatment or special privileges without putting in the necessary effort. They may come from a place of wealth, fame, or just have the mindset that others should cater to their needs and desires. This sense of entitlement can be frustrating for those around them and can create a toxic atmosphere, especially when these individuals expect others to constantly accommodate their wishes. The problem with dealing with entitled people is that they often do not acknowledge the hard work, sacrifices, or equal effort that others put into achieving their own successes. They take for granted the things they are given, expecting more and more without gratitude or awareness of the effort that others put forth. They may feel they are above certain rules or expectations simply because they believe they are special. This attitude not only damages relationships but also stunts their own personal growth as they fail to learn the value of hard work, humility, and responsibility. From a Stoic perspective, the key to dealing with entitled individuals is to recognize their behavior for what it is, a reflection of their internal insecurities and a lack of understanding about the true nature of value and success. The Stoics teach us that true worth comes not from external circumstances such as wealth or status, but from our internal virtues, our wisdom, our integrity, and our actions. Stoicism emphasizes that we should not allow external factors such as another person's sense of entitlement to determine how we feel or behave. In response to entitled behavior, Stoicism encourages us to maintain a mindset of humility and gratitude. We should not let the arrogance of others affect our own peace of mind or sense of self-worth. When dealing with entitled individuals, the Stoic response is not to mirror their entitlement, but rather to model the virtues of patience, self-respect, and personal responsibility. By maintaining our integrity and refusing to indulge in entitlement ourselves, we can create a counterbalance to the toxic behavior of those around us. A powerful Stoic tool in this situation is to practice detachment. While we cannot change the behavior of entitled individuals, we can control our response to them. We can detach from their expectations and demands and focus on our own actions and values. By doing so, we protect our emotional well-being and avoid getting caught in a cycle of frustration or resentment. We recognize that their entitlement is not a reflection of our worth, and we choose not to take it personally. It's also important to remember that the Stoic approach is not about ignoring the needs of others, but rather about understanding the difference between genuine needs and the inflated demands of entitlement. When dealing with someone who expects special treatment, it's essential to set clear boundaries. We can offer assistance when it's appropriate, but we do not have to sacrifice our own well-being or values to accommodate someone who feels entitled to more than what is fair or reasonable. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us that it's not about seeking revenge or punishment against entitled people, but about using their behavior as a mirror to reflect on our own actions and attitudes. Instead of getting bogged down by their demands, we can ask ourselves how we can better embody humility and self-discipline in our own lives. This self-reflection helps us grow and reminds us that our worth is not determined by how others treat us, but by how we treat ourselves and others. In the modern world where social media and status often amplify feelings of entitlement, the Stoic approach offers a refreshing perspective. By focusing on internal virtues, setting healthy boundaries, and practicing emotional resilience, we can navigate the challenges of dealing with entitled individuals while maintaining our own peace and integrity. In conclusion, dealing with entitled and privileged individuals requires patience, detachment, and a commitment to personal values. The Stoic principles of humility, self-respect, and boundary setting provide us with the tools to protect our emotional well-being and navigate the complexities of relationships with those who expect more than they deserve. By applying these principles, we can stay grounded in our own virtues, avoid being dragged into cycles of entitlement, and lead lives rooted in integrity and authenticity. Type of person 9. The people who don't prepare for the future. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get caught up in the demands of the present moment. However, there are individuals who live solely for the now, without considering the long-term consequences of their actions or inactions. These people don't plan, don't think ahead, and often fail to prepare for challenges that might arise in the future. They are quick to assume that things will work out on their own, relying on luck or external factors to determine their success, rather than taking proactive steps to shape their own futures. The problem with these individuals is that they live with a sense of complacency, believing that everything will always work out in their favor. This mindset often leads to missed opportunities, unnecessary stress, and even failure when they are forced to confront situations for which they have not adequately prepared. Whether it's financial planning, career development, or personal growth, their lack of foresight puts them at a disadvantage in a world that is always evolving and changing. From a Stoic perspective, Preparation is essential for living a virtuous and successful life. The Stoics teach us that we must not only focus on the present, but also plan for the future. While they encourage us to live in accordance with nature and accept what is outside our control, they also emphasize the importance of preparation, especially when it comes to the challenges we know we may face. The Stoics understood that while we can't predict every event, we can take steps to prepare ourselves for life's uncertainties. This preparation is not about living in fear of the future, but rather about being ready to meet it with wisdom and resilience. The Stoic principle of living according to nature teaches us to recognize the patterns and realities of life, things like aging, illness, or changes in the economy, and to prepare ourselves for them. This doesn't mean obsessing over the future or becoming anxious about things that haven't happened yet. Instead, it's about taking responsible actions today that will secure a better tomorrow, whether that means saving money for the future, investing in education, or developing strong relationships. Preparation is a key part of leading a life that aligns with Stoic values. When dealing with people who fail to prepare for the future, it's important to recognize that their lack of planning is not your responsibility. While we can offer advice or guidance, we cannot force others to change their behavior if they are not willing to do so. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own actions and decisions, and to let go of the need to control others. We can encourage those around us to plan and think ahead, but ultimately they must take the initiative themselves. For those who resist planning, Stoicism offers a powerful tool in the form of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation to an unprepared future. Rather, it means accepting that we can only do so much, and that we are not responsible for the choices of others. We can set an example by preparing for our own future and making decisions that reflect long-term thinking, while not becoming frustrated or resentful toward those who choose to live in the moment without considering the consequences. In the modern world, where everything from personal finance to career paths is shaped by forward-thinking strategies, the ability to plan and prepare for the future is crucial. The Stoic approach offers a balance between living in the present and planning for the future, recognizing that while we can't control every outcome, we can control our response and our readiness for life's challenges. In conclusion, dealing with individuals who don't prepare for the future requires patience, understanding, and setting boundaries. The Stoic principles of planning, acceptance, and focusing on what is within our control offer powerful guidance for navigating these situations. By applying these principles, we can protect our own progress, while encouraging others to take the necessary steps to secure their future. Through thoughtful preparation, we build a life that is resilient, purposeful, and aligned with our values, ensuring that we are ready to face whatever comes next. As we navigate through life, we are bound to encounter various types of individuals who may challenge our peace of mind and personal growth. From those who live in false realities to the entitled, unmotivated, and constantly negative. Each person represents a different test of our patience, values, and emotional resilience. However, through the lens of Stoicism, we can approach these challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and self-reflection. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. We have the power to set boundaries, protect our emotional energy, and focus on cultivating virtues such as wisdom, patience, and resilience. By embracing these principles, we free ourselves from being dragged into toxic dynamics and can instead channel our energy into what truly matters, our own personal development and well-being. It's essential to remember that the true power lies in our ability to maintain our peace of mind, regardless of the behavior of others. By practicing the Stoic way of life, accepting what is beyond our control, detaching from negativity, and prioritizing self-respect, we build a foundation for living a more fulfilling, purposeful and serene life. In this ever-changing and often challenging world, we all have the opportunity to become the best versions of ourselves. We don't need to be overwhelmed by the negative or entitled behavior of others. Instead, we can choose to live in alignment with our values, focus on what we can control, and grow stronger in the process. If you found this video helpful, we encourage you to leave a comment and share it with others. Let's start a conversation about how we can all apply Stoic principles to navigate life's challenges with more clarity and resilience. Together, we can build a community that embraces self-awareness, emotional strength, and wisdom. Share this message with those who might benefit, and let's continue this journey of personal growth and empowerment.